Between the narrow streets of the French Quarter and the misted swamps beyond the city's edge, New Orleans breathes like a living ghost. Its past never died, it lingers, watching, whispering through rusted balconies and candlelit crypts. Here, every alley hides a memory. Every melody on Bourbon Street carries something darker beneath its tune. The line between fact and folklore has long since vanished. Tonight, we walk that line. From forgotten mansions to blood-soaked bayous, from the colonial age to the jazz era, 12 stories rise from the murk legends that refuse to rest. Each one was born from truth, molded by fear, and passed from one trembling voice to another. Some say the city protects its dead. Others say the dead protect the city. Either way, when the fog rolls in and the bells toll midnight, the spirits of New Orleans wake and they remember everything. Legend 1, the casket girls of Ursuline Convent, the shutters never open. That's the first thing people notice. In the early 1700s, ships from France brought young women to the French colony to marry settlers. They carried with them small, coffin-shaped chests said to contain their dowries. Locals called them les filles à la cassette, the casket girls. When they arrived, priests from the Ursuline Convent locked away their mysterious trunks in the attic, claiming it was to preserve the girls' modesty and protect sacred items. But as nights fell over the new colony, the stories began. Dock workers whispered that the crates were too heavy for their size, that strange scratching sounds came from inside. Soon after the girls' arrival, people began to vanish. A sailor found drained of blood near the levee. A maid discovered pale and lifeless, her lips turned blue. The French authorities dismissed it as fever, but even they crossed themselves when passing the convent after dark. In the 1,820 seconds, 2 police officers claimed to have seen the attic shutters wide open in the middle of the night. They entered the building but found nothing except a trail of blood that stopped suddenly beneath the attic stairs. The next morning, the shutters were sealed again with nails blessed by a priest. Skeptics say it's a tale born from xenophobia and colonial superstition, that the casket-shaped chests were just traveling trunks, not coffins. But locals still avoid the sidewalk beneath the convent windows. Tour guides whisper that maintenance workers refuse to clean the attic. Today, the building still stands at the corner of Chartres and Ursulines. The shutters remain closed, always. And when the wind from the river brushes against the wood, some swear they hear scratching from the other side, something inside still trying to get out. Legend 2, the Axemen of New Orleans. The melody of death once echoed through New Orleans between 1918 and 1919. Terror struck the city's Italian quarter. A man with an axe broke into homes at night, leaving victims butchered in their beds. He never stole money, only lives. Locals whispered he wasn't human, that he slipped through locked doors like smoke. In March 1919, the city received a letter signed the Axeman. He promised to spare anyone who played jazz loudly that night. Every bar erupted with brass and piano, a desperate symphony to keep death away. No murders occurred, but the killer was never caught. Some say he was a vengeful spirit from the yellow fever years. Others insist he was a man hiding behind myth. Old police records describe different footprints at each scene as if more than one killer walked the streets. Even now, the legend lingers. Jazz musicians call him the city's dark muse. A festival once honored the night he let the music save them, mixing fear with rhythm. Late-night wanderers claim to see a tall figure in a black hat watching from the edge of the French Quarter, his shadow stretching toward the sound of a saxophone. The moment the music stops, the air tightens. It's said the Axeman never left, he just waits for the silence. Legend 3, the ghost of Madame Lalaurie. The mansion on Royal Street still looks beautiful, and that's the worst part. In the early 1800s, Madame Delphine Lalaurie was the picture of elegance, wealthy, cultured, adored by New Orleans society. But behind her polished doors, horror waited. When a kitchen fire broke out in 1834, neighbors forced their way inside and uncovered what she had hidden for years. Enslaved people chained, mutilated, left to die in her attic. The mob wanted justice, but Lalaurie escaped, vanishing into history. The mansion never escaped her. Tenants who lived there later claimed to hear screams echoing from the upper floor. A servant once fled, saying she saw a woman in a gray gown gliding down the staircase, her eyes empty, her hands covered in blood that vanished when she turned on the light. Skeptics call it mass hysteria, fueled by guilt and gossip. Historians say the details grew over time, blending fact and nightmare. Still, no one lives there long. Tour guides lower their voices near the gate. Ghost hunters swear the air inside feels charged, as if the walls themselves remember. Some nights, faint music drifts from the balcony, the sound of a long-gone party, ending in screams. They say Madame Lalaury's soul can't rest because she refuses to believe she's dead. In New Orleans, even monsters crave their masquerade. Legend 4. The Curse of the Grunge Road. Locals say if you drive too far down Grunge Road, you don't come back the same. The legend dates back to the early 1800s. When a colony of outcasts lived at the edge of the city, people feared for their deformities. Driven into the swamp, cut off from the world, they turned feral, or so the stories claim. Generations later, they became something else entirely, half human, half monster, known as the Grunge. Drivers reported finding mutilated goats near the road, drained of blood. One couple in the 1,940 seconds swore their car broke down, and when the man stepped out, something with glowing eyes darted from the trees. Only his shredded hat was found. Another sighting came in the 90 seconds. A group of teens said they saw a figure crouched on the asphalt, feeding on a raccoon, its back bent like a question mark. Scientists blame wild dogs, and skeptics say it's the imagination of thrill seekers. But even police avoid patrolling the area at night. Farmers near the edge of the bayou steal hand crosses made of driftwood to keep the grunge away. Today, Grunge Road is more legend than map. Yet, locals warn never to follow its name on GPS. Sometimes the route appears, then vanishes. They say it calls to those who don't believe. And when the car lights flicker, you might realize too late you've gone too far. Legend 5. The Phantom of the Street Louis Cathedral. The bells of Street Louis Cathedral ring at midnight, even when no one pulls the rope. The cathedral, standing in Jackson Square since the 1700s, is the oldest in continuous use in the United States. It has survived fires, hurricanes, and revolts, but something within its walls refuses to rest. Parish records tell of Father Antonio de Sedela, known as Père Dagobert, a priest who defied colonial rule to bury rebels when the Spanish government left their bodies to rot. After his death, people began hearing his voice during storms, low chants rising over the wind. In 1850, a watchman swore he saw a priest in black robes walking toward the altar, then vanish in a sudden gust that extinguished every candle. Decades later, tourists claimed a similar sight, a figure kneeling in prayer, dissolving into mist as the bells tolled. Skeptics call it the echo of imagination, the mind-bending sound and shadow in an ancient space. Locals say Père Dagobert still guards the cathedral, blessing the faithful, warning the cruel. On humid nights, when the air feels heavy and still, the candles flicker without cause. The choir loft creaks with invisible footsteps. Some say if you listen close, you can hear a hymn no one sung in centuries, soft, sorrowful, and unfinished. The dead, it seems, still keep their mass. Legend 6. The Witch of the Seven Sisters Road. The trees lean too close on Seven Sisters Road, as if they're listening. Locals whisper that a Creole witch once lived deep in those woods, just beyond the reach of lantern light. No one remembers her name, only that she was said to have 7 daughters who vanished one by one. Some say they were taken by fever, others that she sacrificed them to keep her youth. When her cabin burned in the late 1800s, the people thought the curse had ended. It hadn't. Travelers began reporting strange lights floating above the dirt road, blue, shifting orbs that followed cars and then blinked out. One man in the 1,960 seconds claimed a woman appeared beside his truck, barefoot, with eyes like wet glass. She asked where her daughters were. When he turned to answer, she was gone, and his engine died. Skeptics blame swamp gas, headlights, or the tricks of humidity on tired eyes. Yet, people still find small dolls woven from reeds along the roadside, each with 7 knots in the twine. Locals won't touch them. Now the place is a teenage, dare drive it at midnight, count the 7 turns, don't stop. But everyone who's done it says the same thing. Before the final curve, they hear someone whisper 6, 7, and the voice sounds like it's right behind them. Legend 7, the ghosts of the Hotel Monteleone. The elevators of the Hotel Monteleone sometimes stop on the wrong floor, one that doesn't exist. The Grand Hotel opened in 1886, a beacon of luxury in the French Quarter. But time twisted it into something else, a place where the living and the dead quietly share the same hallways. Guests have long reported strange happenings, music playing from empty rooms, doors clicking open, a child's laughter echoing through the corridor at 2 a.m. One story centers on a little boy named Maurice Baguerre. In the 1,890 seconds, his parents stayed at the hotel while his mother performed at the opera. One night, Maurice fell ill and died while she was away. Grief consumed her, and she returned to the Monteleone year after year, begging for a sign. Eventually, staff reported hearing a small boy's voice calling Mama, followed by cold drafts sweeping through the hall. Guests still claimed to see him near the 14th floor, smiling faintly before fading into the wallpaper. A maintenance worker once rode an elevator that opened to a long, unfamiliar hallway lined with mirrors. He stepped out and it vanished behind him. He was found later in the stairwell, trembling, unable to describe what he saw reflected there. Skeptics call it stress and architecture, the human mind bending under the hotel's ornate quiet. Yet, even management admits the building hums with energy. Some believe the Monteleone is more than haunted, it's a threshold, a place the city's restless souls pass through before they move on. And in New Orleans, moving on is never simple. Legend 8, the rougarou of the bayou. When the moon hangs low over the cypress trees, something moves through the marsh, breathing like a man but walking like a beast. The rougarou is one of Louisiana's oldest legends, born from French Catholic settlers who brought stories of the loup-garou, a cursed soul that turns into a wolf under the moon. In the swamps around New Orleans, that tale changed. The rougarou isn't just a werewolf, it's a punishment. Break Lent, betray a vow, harm the innocent, and the curse finds you. Cajun families in the 1800s warned their children, stay close to the firelight, or the rougarou will come for you. Hunters claimed to hear it growl beneath the croak of frogs. One trapper in 1902 swore it clawed his boat, leaving long marks in the wood. Another man, decades later, described being followed home by glowing eyes that vanished only when he whispered a prayer. Biologists insist it's folklore meant to enforce morality. Skeptics blame alligator eyes catching moonlight. But the legend endures. Every year, small towns hold rougarou festivals, wearing fur and fangs in uneasy celebration, as though mocking what they still fear. And deep in the wetlands, some still leave bowls of milk on their porches, the way their grandparents did. They say it keeps the creature calm. Others say it just lets it know who believes and who doesn't. In Louisiana, this belief is the most dangerous scent of all. Legend 9, the man in the cemetery. Gate cemeteries in New Orleans aren't like others. The dead lie above ground, stacked in stone cities of the lost. And among those narrow aisles of marble and moss, a man waits. The first reports came after the yellow fever outbreak of 1853, when Lafayette Cemetery overflowed. Gravediggers spoke of a tall stranger in a black coat who appeared at dusk, hat brimmed low, face hidden. He would stand by freshly sealed tombs and whisper names no one else could hear. When approached, he simply vanished, leaving the scent of tobacco and rain. By the early 1900s, tourists began reporting him too. A writer visiting from Boston described being guided through the tombs by a polite man with a soft voice, only to realize later his guide matched no employee. Locals call him the caretaker. Others insist he's something older death's emissary, walking the aisles to make sure every soul stays in its place. One night in the 1,980 seconds, a watchman found the main gate open after closing. He swore he saw the same figure near the Duplantier tomb. When he called out, the man turned, smiled faintly, and faded into the marble wall. The watchman quit that night. Skeptics blame exhaustion, tricks of light, or the heavy scent of decay clouding reason. But maintenance crews still find footprints in the dust after storms leading nowhere. Tourists leave coins at the gate now, small offerings for safe passage. Every cemetery tour ends with the same warning. If you visit after sunset and see a tall man by the entrance, don't speak first. Those who do are said to dream of graves the next night, each one bearing their own name. And when the bell strikes midnight, the caretaker walks again, counting the living among the dead. Legend 10. The specter of pirate Jean Lafitte. In New Orleans, even the pirates refused to die. Jean Lafitte was a smuggler, a privateer, and sometimes a hero. In the early 1800s, his black sail ships ruled the Gulf, his warehouse on Bourbon Street overflowing with stolen gold. He helped Andrew Jackson defend the city in the War of 1812, then vanished into legend, some say to Cuba, others to sea. But New Orleans insists he came back. Lafitte's blacksmith shop still stands, one of the oldest buildings in the quarter. Its low stone walls lean with age, candles flickering where electricity barely dares. Bartenders tell of cold spots that move like footsteps, and a shadow figure who lingers in the corner, smoke curling around his hat. He never speaks, only raises a glass before fading into the air. In 1892, a worker restoring the building claimed to uncover a sealed alcove containing a chest of coins dated years after Lafitte's supposed death. The coins disappeared overnight. A century later, tourists reported a man in 19th century garb whispering in French, warning them to guard what is not theirs. Historians dismiss it as folklore clinging to a famous name. Yet, locals believe Lafitte's spirit protects his hidden treasure, cursed against greed. Some even claim that during hurricanes, his ghost sails the storm clouds over the Mississippi, laughing as lightning splits the sky. At Lafitte's bar, candles burn long after closing, though no one's inside. Patrons leave rum on the counter, a toast to the city's most enduring outlaw. And sometimes, just before dawn, the faint sound of boots crosses the floorboards, too heavy for the living, too proud for the grave. New Orleans doesn't bury its legends. It just lets them drink forever. Legend 11. The singing spirits of Lake Pontchartrain. On still nights, when the fog crawls across Lake Pontchartrain, locals swear they hear voices soft, rhythmic, singing from somewhere just beyond the waterline. The lake has claimed thousands. Sailors, fishermen, and travelers all vanished beneath its dark surface since the 1700s. One of the earliest tales speaks of a Choctaw maiden who drowned herself rather than be forced into marriage. They say her voice rose from the lake that same night, calling her true love's name. Later, fishermen heard entire choirs of voices, harmonizing under the wind, as if the lost were keeping one another company. During the 1,920 seconds, a steamboat captain reported hearing a woman's voice singing in French just before his vessel struck an unseen sandbar. He swore she warned him too late. In 1956, a bridge worker vanished while repairing the causeway. Weeks later, his crew claimed they heard his voice humming the same tune he always whistled. Scientists blame the sound on the lake's strange acoustics wind echoing across the water's flat expanse. But locals refuse to doubt. They say the dead beneath the Pontchartrain never forgot how to sing. Some even claim the songs changed before hurricanes, as though the spirits are trying to warn the city. Fishermen still leave offerings: bread, tobacco, and bits of cloth tied to driftwood, gifts for the drowned. When the mist thickens and the air hums with that eerie melody, no one speaks until it stops. The lake goes silent then, heavy and waiting. And if you ever hear your own name in the song, it's said the water already knows where you'll fall. Legend 12. The Lady of the Gallier House. In the heart of the French Quarter stands Gallier House, a preserved gem of 19th century elegance, all ironwork lace and polished mirrors. It's a museum now, but guides admit quietly that some rooms don't stay empty when the tours end. James Gallier Jr., the architect, built the house for his family in 1857. He died decades later, under mysterious circumstances, some say by his own hand in the Mississippi River. After his death, servants began reporting strange occurrences: footsteps on the staircase, the faint scent of lavender in rooms long closed. One maid swore she saw a woman standing at the window, dressed in mourning black, watching the street with vacant eyes. Over the next century, caretakers claimed to hear her humming near the parlor, sometimes accompanied by a soft knocking from inside the walls. In 1972, a historian spending the night to catalog furniture, woke to find every door open and all the clocks stopped at 3:17 a. He left before dawn and never returned. Skeptics say it's draft and decay, a trick of the old gas lamps. Paranormal investigators, however, recorded voices calling the name James repeatedly, though the building was empty. Some visitors feel a sudden chill when they touch the banister as if someone unseen still guards the house. Today, the Gallier House remains a polished monument to New Orleans' golden age, but staff refuse to stay alone after dark. They say the lady in black still waits by the window, her gaze fixed on the street, searching for her husband or the river that took him. The city never forgets its dead, and its ghosts never forget to come home.